Hello, my friends, and welcome back to yet another episode of Watching the Watchers Live. My name is Robert Gouveia. I am a criminal defense attorney at the R&R Law Group located in the always beautiful and sunny Scottsdale, Arizona. And today, my friends, we've got some news to attend to. As you can see here, going over to our mind map, which is where we like to get our bearings straight, we've got three segments, as usual, that we are going to dive into. Some of the big news of the day. Steve Bannon apparently had some breaking news. He was on the Charlie Kirk show, or Charlie Kirk was on the Steve Bannon show, or something was going on there. But Bannon apparently is breaking the news that the FBI raided something like 35 different MAGA deputies all over America, kind of simultaneously with his booking that took place yesterday, which we covered very briefly. It was the new indictment taking place out of New York. Prosecutors, the Letitia Tishy James was out there, making her statements. And of course, this is her entire life, is prosecuting Trump and his allies. But she was very happy about it. But it sounds like, Bannon kind of came out on the Charlie Kirk show and talked about it. And so we'll see what he had to say. But he's saying that there was a sort of an ongoing raid that took place elsewhere around the country. And we've got a couple clips from two senators. You see both of them here. Josh Hawley. He's saying that two people that we talk a lot about here on this channel need to go. Christopher Wray, FBI director, along with Merrick Garland, the attorney general. He's saying both of those people need to go. People are talking about impeachment and Bannon and, all sorts of consequences from these raids, from the politicization of the FBI and the DOJ. We've also got Ron Johnson. He's going to talk about whistleblowers, and we're going to follow up on that story because remember, Merrick Garland warned whistleblowers. He said, don't you dare talk to anybody out there in the media or, politicians or anybody else who might have oversight over us. We don't want anybody poking around in here. And so Ron Johnson is saying, no, hold on a minute. We actually think that you should come to us. You are protected by the law, and speak up, ladies and gentlemen of the FBI or elsewhere. Very important to go and communicate, they're saying, with the senators and other people who are in positions of power to do something about this. So we'll check in with all of those three clips and take a look at the memo. Then we'll move into a very interesting update on this lawsuit coming out of Missouri. We know that there was an attorney general. We talked about this one a long time ago. Actually, not that long ago. When the lawsuit, actually, it was a long time ago. It must have been probably sometime back in May. But remember that Missouri Attorney General Eric Schmitt, he is suing the Biden administration and the CDC and Fauci and like everybody else. This is a number of states, Missouri and Louisiana, going after a number of individuals in the Biden administration, saying that they were colluding, that these two entities, Big Tech, Facebook and Twitter and Google and all of them, they were all colluding with the government. They were sort of making sure that their messages were all in sync with one another. And you know the story, the misinformation, disinformation saga. The government can't censor you, but they're okay if the big tech companies do. So we'll go through this new order. You see it here. It's 10 pages, not too long, but there is some interesting meat there because it sounds like the judge is going to order the government to disclose a bunch of stuff over to the states. And that's what they want. Like some juicy stuff was ordered to be disclosed. So we'll take a look at that. And of course, as we'll see, the White House just has no comment about any of this. Before the order came out, Karine had no comment. After the order came out, Karine had no comment. But we'll check in with Rand Paul, who is kind of happy about it. He's kind of excited. And then in our last segment, Washington, D.C. Yeah, they're in a state of emergency over there because they've got like 11,000 migrants. Like, wow, 11,000 of them. You're kidding me. A whole 11,000? Wow. So Mayor Muriel Bowser, we've talked a lot about her in the past. She came out and she said specifically that we're in a state of emergency. The federal government has abandoned D.C., even though they're in D.C., kind of a weird thing. So interesting clips over there. She declared a state of emergency. We'll check in on that. And it's an interesting little dynamic here because she had a bunch of tweets from like 2017 and 2018 where she was saying that Washington, D.C. was a sanctuary city. Well, we love everybody. Just come on in here. We're diverse. States like Arizona and Texas, they're filled with racists, and we're not like that. But now that they've got actual migrants who are showing up on their doorstep, they're saying that this is just way out of control and We need help. So we've also got this woman, Brianne Nadeau. And, I say woman, hopefully she identifies accordingly. But it is an interesting thing because she's a D.C. council person on the Washington, D.C. City Council. And she was out saying that Arizona and Texas are causing her city to be like a border state, which I found to be a little bit offensive. It's kind of like a pejorative thing. It's like a border state or a border city. It's like, okay, what are you saying? Yeah, I live in Arizona. What about it? So we'll check in with her. And it feels kind of racist, honestly, if she's saying that, there's something pejorative about that. So we'll check in on that. We got news that there are massive amounts of migrant deaths as people continue to try to make their way into the country. We know that Kamala said, don't go, but they continue to come. And there were 748 deaths. So we'll look at that article. And then we've got out in Illinois, Governor Pritzker. He's also saying, this is out of control. Texas is sowing the seeds of chaos and everything is doom and gloom and we're all doomed unless we can stop these Republicans from sending migrants into our cities. And so as you can see, we have got a lot to get to. It's all laid out here for us to attend to throughout the broadcast. And if you want to be a part of the show, the place to do that is over at watchingthewatchers.locals.com. Head on over there, sign up, join our community. Chatting away is See the Veil, Jason on Blast, B Spec, C Reed's over there, Zach Nichols. Shout out to all my friends over on Locals. Over on Rumble, we've got 12 LJs in the house, along with Eric Scorpio, Dog Digger, Army Brat's there. Shout out to all the Rumble chat. K Bean is here, along with Playin' Hooky. Shout outs. Jenny B's a member over there on YouTube. You can also become a member by clicking that join button. You get a couple new gifts that we've had added into the foray there if you'd like to use those. But shout out to K Bean, to Cool Guy 18,000. I see Fat Hand Robert. Is that like Fat Hand Robert? Okay, I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. We also have Sousen Academies here, Ben Vineyard, Lenny Malley is in the house, along with Hippy Dippy Call Girl. Shout out to Hippy Dippy. All right, and so those are all people on YouTube. And if you want to join and support the show, click that join button. If you don't want to join, click the subscribe button. And if you don't want to subscribe, well, click the like button. There's so many options on YouTube. It's very diverse. And of course, before we jump into things, I am a criminal defense attorney at the R&R Law Group. We're available online, rrlawaz.com, if you want to go check out our homepage. And we offer free consultations for good people charged with crimes. Anybody facing criminal charges in the state of Arizona. We love to help. DUIs, domestic violence, possession of drugs, urinating in public, criminal speeding, reckless driving, whatever. That's what we work on. We're very good at it. It's all we do. We don't do family law. We don't do personal injury. We don't do any of that stuff. 480-787-0394. Free case evaluations. We demand that they adhere to the presumption of innocence, and we make sure the burden of proof remains with the government and they don't ever violate your constitutional rights. 480-787-0394. All right. And so it is Friday, my friends. And so we are going to cue this back up to the very start of the broadcast and see what we have to attend to here today. Steve Bannon making headlines saying that the FBI may have raided 35 different MAGA deputies, allies, individuals who are all around the country who are connected to the former president, Donald Trump. We covered previously Steve Bannon was an individual who we spent a lot of time reviewing when he was indicted and he was prosecuted for 2 counts of contempt of Congress. He just recently got indicted out of a state court in New York, and they're now charging him with new counts based on a build the wall allegation from an old fundraising event organization he was a part of some time ago. But after Steve Bannon went through the perp walk and they brought him down to the court and they arraigned him and they gave him his release conditions, he left the court, obviously, and then he went back and he appeared on a broadcast. And here he is talking with Charlie Kirk, and he's giving us his reflection. Steve Bannon just released from custody. He was in handcuffs. We saw him do the perp walk down the hallway that the courts and the prosecutors conveniently set up to sort of rub his nose in this thing. And now he's out explaining his experience. And I want to listen to this because he's saying that something very interesting happened, namely that 35 different homes or individuals or allies of Donald Trump were raided simultaneously with his appearance in court. Let's listen.
Yesterday was one of the best days of my life. It was a very powerful spiritual day for me. It was a lot of things were, came into high clarity. I was totally in the zone, as you say, in sports the entire time. And, they're not going to shut me up. We see you saw from the demonic speech that Biden gave in Philadelphia, exactly this is a dying regime. That was a primal scream. And here, what they're trying to do, no matter who it is, Donald Trump in Mar-a-Lago, there were 35 FBI raids yesterday.
Wow.
Right? Handing out, there's another grand jury coming together on January 6th. The Washington Post reported it. They just reported a couple names. There were 35 senior members of MAGA, Republicans, supporters of Donald Trump, that were the FBI rolled in on, right? When they didn't need to do it. Remember, all these people have lawyers. All their lawyers are very well known. No, the jackbooted Gestapo has got to show up at their door and make a big display of this. So there's so much going on that people don't even.
Oh, wow. So that's a very big claim. That's a big effort, right? That's 35 different raids, 35 senior officials, 35 individuals connected to the former president that apparently were raided by the FBI. Now, I did poke around and I tried to find some sort of response from the DOJ about this, from the Justice Department, Merrick Garland. I tried to look and see if there were any other reporters that I typically follow that have sort of wind of this. And I haven't seen anything, honestly. I was trying to identify indictments or sealed search warrants or anything, but we haven't seen anything quite yet. Now, it is possible that a lot of this stuff is all been sealed and it's all part of an ongoing investigation. We have heard that litany on and on and on again. And there has been a lot of sealing of documents, sealing of investigations. That's been the entire argument that the DOJ has been using throughout this entire Mar-a-Lago saga. And so you could easily see, right, if you had to sort of, I guess, weigh both options on the side, what makes more sense? That the FBI is raiding MAGA officials, or that the FBI is, I guess, just sitting at home playing Where's Waldo, not investigating Trump's allies? I don't know. I don't know. I mean, it really could go either way. I don't know. But it's an interesting statement to be making because regardless, right, we should expect to see something come out of it. We should expect to see some indictments or some sort of smoke if there is a flame here. Let's listen to the rest of the statement.
At so many levels on trying to put people in bankruptcy, trying to deplatform them, all of it. And quite frankly, I think that's what's so powerful about you guys having this great reset conference, because this is really what it's about. This is this globalist apparatus.
That's right.
This is the American arm of that, the Biden regime. And what they're trying to do is shut down everybody, whether it's Alex Jones, Charlie Kirk, Steve Bannon, Tucker Carlson, Donald Trump. They're trying to use lawfare, financial terrorism, everything legally, and quite frankly, up to assassinations. That's why they're swatting people like crazy. So we got our work cut out for us. And if we blink,
swatting people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, which we've covered, and others. I mean, there are many people on YouTube who are also getting swatted sort of left and right. It was kind of a wild scene to watch that happening. But Charlie Kirk, of course, is, I think, trying to get back to the big news that Steve Bannon just broke, saying, wait, what? 35 people just got raided? When did this happen?
Blink, it's over. So screw them. I spit right in their eye. I could care less. We're coming. We're rolling, and we're rolling hard, baby.
It's the only way to fight them. Steve, can you reiterate that? You said there were 35 FBI raids yesterday.
Yeah,
I consider myself well-read. I didn't see that anywhere.
What?
Can you elaborate on that?
What?
I'm breaking that news right here. If you go to the Washington Post story, I think Josh Dawsey's story, if your staff pulls it, Charlie, they mentioned, I think, 5 names, Boris Epstein being one of them, but I think there's 5 people. There were 35. 35. FBI went to 35 yesterday. All these people have lawyers. They all know who the lawyers are. They didn't serve these subpoenas to the lawyers. They want to make a big display of it. They want to take a bunch of their devices. This is the FBI trying to roll in and trying to be muscle, right? This is the Gestapo. This is a Gestapo tactic. Look, this is all about intimidation. Whether it's what they did with me yesterday, what they're doing with Alex Jones, what they're doing with other people to debank them, to make sure that they can't fund their operations.
So all of that is true. I have no doubt about any of that, right? They are throwing people, they're debanking people. You can't use Visa or MasterCard. You can't use certain platforms, right? We've been thrown off chat services and suspended and demonetized. The entire channel here was demonetized, right? So talk about interfering with people's monetary abilities. So all of that is true. I don't have any doubt that that's going on, but I really want to know more about this 35 raids taking place, because it reminds me of, like, execute Order 66 or something out of Star Wars, right? Where they just say, okay, just go eliminate all the Jedi, or, the Red Wedding or something like this in the Game of Thrones, right? This kind of feels like this really nefarious conspiracy if they all just executed it on the same exact day that Steve Bannon was in court.
If it's Trump, look, a president of the United States, a completely, totally illegal raid, of which a judge said was an illegal raid. The judge's opinion says, I don't trust the Justice Department and the FBI to be fair. That's a federal judge, okay? You see it all over. And 35 members of MAGA, the Republican Party, people close to Donald Trump, were rolled in on yesterday by the FBI with these intimidation tactics. They just don't. Normally what you would do here, Charlie, is you would go to their lawyer and say, hey, we want to know can you accept service of a subpoena? Can you accept service of this? Or we may want to talk to you about certain of your devices, and can we work something out? No, they didn't do that. They go with the jackboots and they kick down the door.
And they actually did do that with Bannon. Remember, they actually kind of gave him a little bit of a benefit, meaning they didn't go and raid him on this new state charge. They were apparently communicating with his lawyer because they didn't go kick his door down and throw him in handcuffs. We were waiting for, I guess, something like that to happen, but that didn't happen. So that means that they were part of the investigation was, hey, we've got charges coming for Steve. Do you want us to come pick him up, or do you want to self-surrender? And they self-surrendered, obviously, and we saw that yesterday. So let's wrap this up.
They bang on the doors and they roll in people to intimidate them, to make sure that they sit there and go, oh, what do you want? I'll do anything, etc. Well, these people didn't. And this is the FBI. The FBI is the Gestapo right now. I know they hate when I say that, but they're the Gestapo. We're not going to back off calling them the Gestapo because they have Gestapo-like tactics. Here's my point. They're losing. They're only trying to use this national security state muscle because they know they're not winning. And quite frankly, when you do things like the Great Reset this weekend and get young people up to speed on what's going on, that drives them even more insane.
That's right.
So, hey, Turning Point's going to be a target, a big league target.
All right. Well, we'll have to wait and see. Now, if there really were 35 raids, you would imagine that those were all part of a whole series of investigations. And, you could easily come up with a hypothetical that fills in all the gaps, right? We've talked about many of these. And many people in the left, many people who have been observing this have been creating their own theories, right? Oh, gosh, he's got the nuclear codes. He's got biological whatever. All these top secret only things, these CIA ex-operatives and blah, blah, blah. But, they could say that, well, maybe Trump was communicating these top secret things to other deputies, other allies around the country, and that's why they had to go round everybody up or something. Now, again, you sort of have to ask yourself, right, who's got more credibility here, between Steve Bannon and the FBI these days? I don't know. The FBI is setting people up and conducting raids all over the country. They've been doing that for a long period of time. They're including the president in their raids. So I guess, we'll have to wait and see. Josh Hawley is also now speaking out. He's a senator, and he's saying that Christopher Wray and Attorney General Merrick Garland need to go. There's been a lot of attempted oversight from senators over the FBI. We've covered Chuck Grassley and others who have hauled them in front of Congress, in front of judiciary committees, asked them a whole litany of questions. Christopher Wray says, are we done here? I have to go on an airplane. My kids are waiting and we're going to barbecue tonight or something. And so now it's gotten to the point where I think that was before, maybe that was after the raid or before the raid. Who knows? Doesn't matter. They don't care. But they left. Now the former president's being raided. And now Josh Hawley, who is a senator on one of these judiciary committees, is saying specifically, it's time for them to go. We got to get rid of Merrick Garland. We got to get rid of Christopher Wray. Here he is.
Right now, who are good, honest people in government, and they can't believe what this administration's doing. And you bet, Merrick Garland and his corrupt leadership at DOJ is telling these people, you sit down and shut up. He's basically threatening them. And listen, these folks, whistleblowers, are protected under federal law. They are.
Now, let's back up on this very briefly. We're going to come back to Josh Hawley. I forgot to show you this story. Merrick Garland, the U.S. Attorney General, posted this or sent this out to his team back on August 30th. And it's a warning. It's saying, how dare you talk to the media or talk to politicians or talk to anybody else about anything that's problematic taking place within our agency. If you do, you're in violation of the Justice Manual. Here's what he posted. Merrick Garland said this. He said, here, everybody in my office, a memo for all departmental personnel coming from the Attorney General, subject communications with Congress. Merrick Garland wrote the following, saying, in light of the confirmation earlier this month that an Assistant Attorney General in light of the confirmation of this assistant attorney general, this is an appropriate time, right? Many people are asking, why is he issuing this warning right now? But he says, since we got a new person in charge, this is an appropriate time to reaffirm and remind all departmental personnel of our existing policies regarding communications between the Justice Department and Congress, seen right there. Don't talk to the congressional staffers. Saying these policies, which can be found in the Justice Manual, may be supplemented from time to time with more particular components. Like policies previously dictated, these policies are designed to protect our law enforcement decisions, our jurisdiction, and other things. They're also designed to ensure that Congress can do its job. And as this makes clear, nothing in these policies is intended to inflict or conflict or to limit the whistleblower protections. And if you notice, Merrick Garland signed that one nice in blue. Typically, when we look at these documents, they are usually signed by Lisa Monaco, right? She kind of does all the dirty work. She signs the official memos. Maybe she writes them. I don't know. But here, this one was signed by Attorney General Merrick Garland. He signed it off. And basically it's saying, don't talk to Congress. Don't talk to people. Here's a reminder to shut your yappers out there. And that went out on August 30th. And right, all of this, obviously, in the aftermath of the raid on Trump's residence. So you can see that as the oversight starts to heat up, as senators start to come in here and start to ask questions about this, the attorney general is saying, hold on, tighten the ship. Everybody zip your lips about this thing. Here's a reminder, your job's at stake if you don't comply. Now let's go back to Hawley. So now that we know what they're talking about here, Hawley is saying, yeah, the weaponization of these two institutions is pretty problematic, and we may want to do something about it. Here is the senator explaining why Christopher Wray and FBI, Christopher Wray and who's the other guy? Attorney General Merrick Garland, why they both need to go.
Right now, who are good, honest people in government, and they can't believe what this administration's doing. And you bet, Merrick Garland and his corrupt leadership at DOJ is telling these people, you sit down and shut up. He's basically threatening them. And listen, these folks, whistleblowers, are protected under federal law. They are explicitly protected. And what we see is, once again, the Biden team saying, no, we're not going to abide by the law if it doesn't suit us. And they're trying to squelch these whistleblowers. They're trying to shut it down so they can continue to abuse our criminal justice system and abuse these institutions for their own political gain. It's wrong.
Are these
Abusing these institutions.
I think we're seeing all of the above, Sean, and I can just tell you from the whistleblowers that I've seen from Senator Grassley, who have come to him about how the FBI is being abused, how this Justice Department is using it to go after Trump, how they're using it to try to shield Hunter Biden. We've had whistleblowers come forward and say the Biden administration lied about the Afghan refugees, that we actually have hundreds of potential terrorists in this country because they didn't vet the Afghan refugees. They brought them into the country and just released them. We've had whistleblowers come forward about how DHS lied about the disinformation board. It's across.
There's a lot of stuff there. So apparently unvetted Afghan refugees are terrorists who are coming in. We've also got, it sounds like, a whole lot of additional problems coming out of this agency.
Across the board, Sean. I mean, we're seeing this in all the different agencies. And the consistent theme is the Biden people are abusing the law, they're abusing the procedures, and they're doing it to go after their political opponents. They're doing it to try to cover their own tracks, and it's wrong.
Now, we're going to get a question here from Sean about these two individuals and whether they should stay or whether they should go. And here's the final conclusion. Josh Hawley saying it's time for FBI Director Christopher Wray and Attorney General Merrick Garland to go.
No, neither of them are. Both of them should go. They should both have resigned a long time ago. They should have been fired. And as to the Attorney General, I believe that he should be removed if he will not step down.
Removed if not step down, that means impeachment. That means that if the Republicans take over, let's say, the House of Representatives and the Senate, that maybe Josh Hawley and some other Republicans lead an impeachment charge against Merrick Garland. And why wouldn't they? I mean, when you think about this, the Department of Justice is supposed to be fair and impartial. They're supposed to execute the law, right? They're not supposed to be hyper partisans who go after certain individuals and prosecute their political enemies. not supposed to be happening in America. Now, we know that Merrick Garland does not want the whistleblowers or anybody in any of these agencies to actually talk to anybody of consequence, meaning anybody who could bring in some potential oversight, people like Ron Johnson, who is in the Senate. And after Merrick Garland published his little memo communicating this to everybody, saying, don't you dare talk, Ron Johnson comes out and says the opposite. I'm available if you need to speak. Just give me a call, shoot me a text. I'm here.
I don't understand how the Attorney General can issue such an order. People who work for the federal government have the absolute right to come forward to Congress and be afforded whistleblower protection. And so, again, I am calling on people, not just in the FBI, not just the Department of Justice, but if you are concerned about what is happening in your agency, the politicization of it, it being weaponized against American citizens, come talk to us. We'll afford you that whistleblower protection.
Yeah, give me a
call. Because, again, that's the only way we're going to restore confidence in these agencies. We need to expose the truth, and that's pretty much my mission.
Nice. That's what we want to see. We want to see the agencies self-correct if possible. If not, well, then the alternative, I guess, is they've got to go. As Josh Hawley and others are saying, impeachment might be something that is well worthwhile if the political raids continue, if people like Steve Bannon and Donald Trump and others who are offering alternative ideas, if they continue to be the subject of political raids. Maybe it is time that something happens in terms of a defunding or a complete restructuring. And how does that start? At the top. Attorney General Merrick Garland gets impeached. Somebody else gets appointed, and we go and deal accordingly. And so we'll continue to cover that. We'll see what Steve Bannon has to say, or if there's any more evidence of any of these raids, or what else the FBI does in their continual political prosecutions. And we appreciate you subscribing as we continue to cover those stories and more. Meanwhile, we also have some very interesting discovery. Big Tech Collusion with the United States government, been something that a lot of people have known has been going on for quite some time. We all lived through it. But now, very interesting order came down from a judge that is ordering the federal government to disclose discovery to the state governments that are suing over this collusion. And for a little bit of background here, I want to go over to the Attorney General from Missouri. His name is Eric Schmitt, and he posted this some time ago. In fact, this was a little bit of background for us, posted on September 1st. He says, accordingly, hello, America. In May, Missouri and Louisiana filed a landmark lawsuit against top-ranking Biden administration officials for colluding with social media companies to censor free speech. Right? We all saw this. Trump was censored. Anybody who posted any information that was disinformation was censored. People were thrown off of platforms. We were demonetized. We were suspended. The whole thing goes on and on and on. And we were wondering why this was happening. Was there collusion between the tech companies and the government? Well, Attorney General Eric Schmitt says, yeah, maybe. We have already received documents that show that they had a cozy relationship, and now we're demanding more. He says in July of 2022, Missouri and Louisiana served discovery requests and third-party subpoenas demanding documents from top-ranking Biden administration officials and social media companies over their alleged collusion to suppress freedom of speech. Right? And discovery in criminal cases is typically police reports and body cameras or blood results or, surveillance footage or whatever it is. But in this situation, right, what they're looking for is going to be emails and messages and office memoranda and internal policies and procedures that might show any collusion between the U.S. government and any of these big tech companies. And so they said in July, that's what we were after, these discovery requests and these third-party subpoenas to go out and get it. Now, we fast forward a little bit after they submitted those, the Department of Justice then refused to produce those communications. They said no. Those are all, what did they probably say? National security again? Crying out loud. The most senior officials and the social media companies obviously were communicating, and they said you can't have them. So the states then yesterday filed a joint petition asking the court to compel them to produce those documents. Saying, all right, look, the Fauci, CDC, Jen Psaki, all of these administration officials, they don't want to give it to us. Judge, order them to do it. Here's what the Attorney General says. He says, so far, the DOJ identified 45 federal officials who have interacted with social media companies on misinformation, right? And we're going to read the order in a minute. But it says beyond the DOJ, Meta, Facebook, they identified an additional 32 federal officials, including White House officials who communicated with them, and YouTube identified 11 federal officials, including White House officials who communicated with them, many of whom were not disclosed by the DOJ, those stinking liars. They said, I want to know who in the government was working with the media companies, the tech companies. The DOJ gave them a list. They said, oh, we've identified all 45 officials. Here's the full list. And guess what? They didn't give them the full list. Meta said, well, I'm looking at the list of everybody that you gave us. And guess what? We talked to Chuck and Charles and John and James and Jimmy, and they were all over here. And we were working with them, and they weren't on your list that you disclosed to us. Oh. And then they go over to YouTube and Google, and they're like, well, who are you talking to? And they're like, well, I don't know those people on that list, and I don't know those people on Facebook's list, but I know everybody on our list, and it's all these other people. Not disclosed. Now, this sort of reminds me of something. It's like, you've got obligations to provide information. Like the DOJ led an entire raid on the former president because they said, you said that you gave us all your library books, and you didn't, therefore raid. So here, the DOJ, right, they're demanded, give us over all of your contact books, right? To make an analogy, give us over all of your contacts on who you were using to communicate with. And they didn't do that at all. They left off, it sounds like 20-something people. So they weren't being very honest, were they? But of course, these things happen. And you can understand how sometimes people might think that, you sort of turned everything back over, and you didn't. And there's miscommunications that happen all the time. But when the government screws up, when the government doesn't give you all of the information, or they don't turn everything over to you, it's just a big oops. If you're a private citizen, your home gets raided. Okay, do you see how this works? So the DOJ can essentially lie, right? They know what they're doing. They're in possession of all of this material. This would be the analogous or the equivalent of Brady material in a criminal case. They're hiding their contacts, which is the subject of the entire lawsuit. Not disclosed by the DOJ because they wanted to sweep it under the rug because there's a bunch of liars over there. Attorney General Eric Schmitt says, this is a vast censorship enterprise, and the American people deserve to see the truth. Here are examples that already prove that federal officials and social media companies are coordinating on censorship, and we're not even close to being done yet. He says a senior Facebook official sent an email to the Surgeon General stating, I know our teams met today to better understand the scope of what the White House expects from us on misinformation going forward. The email chain follows the SG's Misinformation Health Advisory in July 2021. Here are these emails. This comes from somebody at fb.com. You can see that up there in the header. It goes from somebody at Facebook to somebody at HHS/OASH at hhs.gov. Okay, so somebody over there at the Health and Human Services. It says, thanks so much for getting back to me. Really appreciate that. Adding so-and-so and so-and-so to the email so that all to liaise, couldn't see what that word was, to liaise with your office to find a time ASAP, which is convenient for you. I'm in Spain right now, but we can be navigated accordingly. And thanks for reaching out, for sharing your concerns. The last 2 days have been challenging, but let me know if we can schedule some more time to discuss. This is coming from the U.S. Surgeon General. Best wishes, okay? U.S. Surgeon General sending emails over to Facebook about misinformation. And then you see here, it says, I know our teams met today to better understand the scope of what the White House expects from us on misinformation going forward. This is a big problem, right? The U.S. government is not supposed to put its thumb on speech and free speech and censor people at all. And they're doing that. They are outsourcing their constitutional limitations, their prohibitions. They're saying we can't do these things, but Facebook can, and these other entities can. And they're doing it because they don't want the government to have a problem with them, right? They don't want to be hauled in there and subpoenaed and questioned about monopolies or whatever. So they comply. Here's another one. Attorney General says the same official sent a later email to Health and Human Services and noted, thanks again. And here it is, right? Here's a whole nother part of the conversation. Thanks again for meeting with me. We talked about the speech about having to iterate as the pandemic progresses. I wanted to make sure you saw the steps that we took just this past week to adjust policies on what we are removing with respect to information, as well as the steps taken to further the disinfo dozen. We removed 17 additional pages and groups and Instagram accounts tied to disinfo dozen. So a total of 39 pages and groups were removed, deleted thus far, resulting in every member of the disinfo dozen having at least one such entity removed. Right? This is literal collusion between the US government and Facebook. Deleting info. We are continuing to make 4 other pages and profiles, which have not yet the removal thresholds, more difficult to find on our platform. Okay, so even the people who are not violating the law or violating the terms of service, they are still suppressing them. Right? We knew all of this was going on, but now here it is. It's right out in the open. More emails back and forth, saying we're increasing the strength of our demotions for COVID and certain vaccine-related content. That content will now be demoted at the same strength that we demote other stuff as false. All back and forth with the United States government. Censoring America at the hand of the government. Further communications show that Facebook is increasing the strength of our demotions, and the content will now be demoted along with other content. Zoom meetings back and forth. You can see White House staff is going to be briefed by Twitter on vaccine misinfo. Twitter's to cover trend scene, and they're going to be providing it. And they're going to say how we can partner in product work. The tangible effects, Twitter is notifying them about the tangible effects seen from recent policy changes and what interventions are being implemented in addition to the previous policy changes. Literally censoring social media. So you see the list goes on and on and on. Now, this was what we started to get. Okay, this is all coming back on September 1st. All of the juicy meat and potatoes. Anthony Fauci is included in these emails, or at least he's the subject of these emails, his Instagram account. Somebody's pulling off this fake Anthony Fauci Instagram account. All right, so all of this treasure trove of emails are eventually going to be released, but that is coming out from Attorney General Eric Schmitt. And if you want to go follow him, you can see more of those emails. But now, after this lawsuit hit and after the judge started ordering disclosures, we went over to the White House and we started to ask them about this. Hey, Biden administration, you guys are being sued by a number of different states out there. And the judge just said that you have to give information about your communications with these tech platforms over, to the opposing party. And, there's all these allegations being made. Do you have anything to say about this, Karine?
Has the administration helped Twitter and Facebook with talking points about what the administration believes is misinformation, or how much coordination is there between the administration and social media companies?
So I don't have anything to share with you on that.
Comments.
I'm not going to comment on that right this time.
Because the attorney generals from Missouri and Louisiana said there's a vast censorship enterprise across a multitude of federal agencies.
Yeah, I'm just not going to comment at this time.
No comment. So that's the White House. Very, very strong leadership there. A number of states are suing you for violating their citizens' constitutional rights, for colluding with big tech platforms to censor them, demote them, deplatform them, demonetize them, whatever. And you've got no comments on that? Okay, well, that's fine. So no comments from Karine, but we do know that there is more going on in the courts. The judge in the Big Tech Collusion lawsuit issued a 10-page order, and we are going to go through it, ordering the government to comply. You see, the lawsuit is the state of Missouri versus Joe Biden and others, filed back on September 6, 2022. It's a 10-page order, and it's about the discovery disputes, right? We know that these are the two parties here, the state of Missouri, the state of Louisiana versus Biden and everybody else. And there was Psaki on this list. There was Fauci on this list, a whole slew of people. The judges are ruling. They say the court granted the state's motion for a preliminary injunction related to discovery, and they set an expedited discovery schedule, meaning that this stuff needs to be disclosed soon. The discovery schedule required the parties, meaning the states and the Biden administration, to meet and confer in good faith about the discovery disputes. So we want Fauci's emails from these dates, and they say, well, you can't have Fauci's emails for any of these dates. Okay, well, we disagree about that. And so we got to put it on a statement, file a joint statement with the court detailing the nature of the remaining disputes. Footnote 1, referencing another docket entry. The parties have done so. Okay, they got together and they said, we want Fauci's and you can't have it. Well, we want Psaki's, you can't have those. And they submitted the joint statement on the discovery disputes. And this ruling is now addressing those disputes. Okay, so they're going to say, okay, you get Psaki's, but not Fauci's, whatever. Background. The judge writes, on May 5th, the states filed a lawsuit against the government. And the state means the state of Missouri, Louisiana, these doctors, Chiardi, Kuhldorff, Jim Hoft, Bhattacharya, and Hines, all suing the government. And they gave us a full list of the government defendants here. You can see all of them. Remember all these people? A lot of big names on here. Joe Biden, Vivek Murthy, Xavier Becerra over at the DHS, Anthony Fauci. Yeah. We've also got Alejandro Mayorkas, DHS, Jen Easterly, cybersecurity, Nina Jankowicz over at the Disinfo Board, former, and others were all listed as the defendants. So then they tell us, the judge, in the complaint that the states filed against the Bidens, plaintiffs allege, states say, that the Biden administration colluded with or coerced social media companies to suppress disfavored speakers, viewpoints, and content on these social media platforms by labeling them disinformation, misinformation, and malinformation. And we got hit with, I think, all of them. Plaintiffs allege the suppression, so the states say that you suppressed their viewpoints, and all of this type of content constitutes government action, and it violates the freedom of speech and the First Amendment of the United States. 100% accurate, in my opinion. 100% a state actor, because these are the governments leaning on these big tech companies. Very brief background before we get into the meat and potatoes. Discovery disputes now. The parties, Biden and the states, have made a great deal of progress regarding the discovery. However, there are a few ongoing disputes that we need to settle here. Number 1, whether the states should be allowed leave of court to file a second amended complaint adding defendants, newly identified federal officials and agencies, and obtain discovery against them. Okay, so they're saying here that the states have listed all of these people under footnote 3, but they want to add a bunch more people. They're like, holy moly, judge, you said we can get discovery? All right, well, we want to add like 1 million other people to this list. So can we do that? And of course, the government is saying, no, hold on a minute here. The Biden administration, no, you put your list here. It's like you played your cards. You don't get to add anybody to your cards. Okay. You went to the buffet one time. You don't get to go back multiple times now. All right. Take it easy. And so, of course, they want that. And so, they're going to fight over it. Number 2, whether the Biden administration should be required to identify federal officials and agencies that they know outside of their own agencies who have engaged in communications with these social media platforms. So whether they have an obligation, a duty, okay, so whether they're talking about the CDC, they're talking about Department of Homeland Security or the White House. Do they have to go outside of the CDC and go find other things? Do they need to go appoint some sort of a person to lead an investigation that's a little more thorough here? We don't know. They also say that we have a dispute over whether the government, the Biden administration, should be allowed to seek reciprocal discovery against the states. So can they go and say hey, states, we want to see if you communicated with the big tech companies. Hey, Louisiana, did you communicate with Zuckerberg about this stuff? Because if you did, then maybe you don't have as much of a complaint against us because you were also violating constitutional rights or something. Number 4, another dispute about whether the White House defendants, okay, so people like Karine Jean-Pierre, who's on the list, and Chief Medical Advisor Fauci, she calls him Dr. Fauci in here, should be compelled to respond to the plaintiff's interrogatories and their document requests, right? So does Psaki need to respond? Does Karine Jean-Pierre? They're sort of in the White House, but do they personally need to respond to these things? There's a debate about it. 5, whether Dr. Fauci in his official capacity should be required to provide additional responses. Fauci's like, I don't want to talk to you at all. So they have a debate about that. So they carry on, and the judge is going to be addressing these in different subsections. And so you can see we've got the first subsection A is about the second amended complaint. Can the states just start piling on a bunch of additional defendants in there? Can they say, oh my gosh, well, in that case, we'd like everybody from Joe Biden's cabinet. We'd like everybody from Vice President Kamala's cabinet. We'd like Jen's husband's third cousin's emails, okay? Can we get that, Judge? And the judge says, well, plaintiffs, the states, they allege that they have, through expedited discovery, obtained information that federal officials and agencies that were not named in their original complaint and their amended complaint have also engaged in communications with social media platforms about misinfo, disinfo, and censorship. These allegedly include others, right, outside of that footnote, outside of the named defendants, other agencies like the State Department and the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, the Census Bureau, the U.S. Election Assistance Commission, and the U.S. Treasury Department, and the Federal Bureau of Investigations, the FBI, also communicating with the big tech companies. We heard about that when Mark Zuckerberg went on Joe Rogan's show and he said, yeah, they kind of came over there and they made us tilt the scale on the Hunter Biden saga. Colluding with all of them. And the states finally are getting notice of this. So it goes on. It says, because none of these agencies or pertinent employees have been named as defendants in this proceeding, the states now are asking the court to expand its provisions and its order to allow the states to add these new agencies and then allow discovery with them as well. Government, Biden people, they object to this request. They say additional defendants and more discovery would be incompatible with the compressed discovery schedule that already exists. They say, Judge, how can we bring all these new people on, the FBI and the State Department, when you said that we've got orders to get discovery disclosed at a rapid speed? And if we bring on these new people, well, we've got conflicts here because we then can't comply with your discovery order at that rapid speed. And so the judge says, additionally, government defendants argue that the additional defendants and discovery would exceed the specific target narrow discovery that the states wanted in the first place. The government, the Biden people, they maintain they currently have provided over 15,000 pages of documents, which is certainly a lot. Now, the judge says, expedited discovery is not the norm. The judge says courts only allow it in limited circumstances. We typically don't do this stuff. Saying the good cause analysis this court used in allowing expedited discovery takes into consideration such factors such as the breadth of the discovery request, the purpose, how far in advance of trial all this stuff is. They say that this is an expedited discovery request for the purpose of gaining the necessary information to address the preliminary injunction. The court is aware of the burden it has put on all the parties, and to add additional expedited discovery during the current schedule would be too much. So the judge is sort of saying, you're kind of right about that. I have asked you to do a lot and do it quickly, and we have to do it quickly because we're talking about a preliminary injunction. It's very early in the proceeding. And so the court is saying, all right, so here's what I'm going to do. The court will grant in part and deny in part the state's request. Here's how they're going to split it. The court grants the state's request to add additional parties to this lawsuit. Okay, so you can add the State Department and the FBI and others. Big win. However, this court will deny the state's request for the additional expedited preliminary discovery as to the new defendants. So in other words, you wanted discovery and you wanted it quickly. I'm going to allow that for the first set of defendants that you originally listed in the original complaint, and they're going to have to produce their stuff quickly. I am also going to allow you to add another set of defendants, but they don't have to produce the documents at the same speed as the first set of defendants. Saying this ruling only addresses the preliminary injunction discovery and not anything that follows. Plaintiffs may file a second amended complaint adding the FBI and the State Department within 30 days of this order. Woo! That's pretty good news. That means that FBI, State Department, and those other agencies listed in there now going to be added to the complaint. Judge continues subsection B. Now the out-of-agency discovery, separate issue. Now we're asking ourselves, does, let's say, the FBI and the State Department, now they're going to be added, do they have to go outside of their agencies and find other discovery or other potential points of contact that we're communicating with these tech companies outside of their agencies? The judge writes, the states ask the court to require the Bidens to respond to interrogatories or to provide information about federal officials at other agencies who they think are communicating with the social media companies. And interrogatories are just a set of questions. It's sort of like a set of interview questions. So what they would want to do is they would want to go, let's say, for example, they'd want to go to Jen Psaki or Karine Jean-Pierre, and they'd say, hey, Karine, fill out these 50 pages of questions. And in those questions, they would say, have you ever sent a message to anybody who was an employee at Facebook? And then it'd say, have you ever sent a message to anybody who was an intern at Facebook? And have you ever sent a message to anybody who thought about being an intern, right, 100 times? And then that same set of questions for Google and for YouTube. And they send that out to 1 billion different people. And then they answer all those questions. And then they cross-reference those documents. They say, oh, yeah, Karine said she sent an email to John over at Facebook.com. And that's not on our list anywhere else. And so now we got to go find who John is and what agency was he. Oh, he was talking with, the agriculture division over here. All right. And then you go get their records. And so that's what they're talking about now. Do they have to do that to go sort of weave that web and follow it wherever it may lead? They're saying of whom they are aware engaged in communication with others. Interrogatory number 1, ask the Biden administration to identify every officer, every official, every personnel, contractor, or agent who's ever worked or communicated with any social media platform regarding content modulation or misinformation. Now, the Biden administration, of course, objects to that portion of the interrogatory relating to all of these other agencies. They say that request is way too overbroad, right? It's like asking for everything. It's not narrowly tailored. It's not even closely related to expedited injunction-related discovery. And the government defendant, the Bidens, say, this is unduly burdensome, right, to require us to go out there and find all of that. The judge says, all right, well, this court does agree with the Biden administration that in an expedited preliminary injunction request under a compressed discovery schedule, that this request would be unduly burdensome. Again, this ruling right now, the judge says, is limited to the pending expedited preliminary injunction discovery request and is without prejudice to any potential request for merits-based discovery further. So the judge is saying, look, like we're in the first inning of this thing. You're talking about like a 7th inning issue, right? Or a 4th quarter play. You're talking about something like that in the 1st quarter. We're not talking about that right now. So she then says that the plaintiff, meaning the state's request to make them go follow that web, is denied. Judge say you're not going to require them to do that. Now the government has a request. So the Biden people are saying, well, look, Judge, if you're going to give them our emails and our discovery, well, you should authorize additional discovery, and you should authorize that we get it from them. Now, the states are objecting to that, obviously. They're saying, well, why do we need to give them anything? We sued them. Government defendants, they write, says the judge, has not filed a motion to allow expedited preliminary injunction related to the plaintiffs. And the government defendants have not pointed to any justifiable relevance of any discovery. Right? That's good, yes. What do they need it for? Are you suing them? Neither have government defendants set forth any legal defense for this court to allow discovery. So should the government want to pursue discovery against the states, well, they can file a motion with reasons for that request if you want it. And so therefore, the government request is denied. If you want discovery, ask for it or do something for it. Otherwise, no. And now, finally, I think we have subsection D, the White House defendants. So now, what about Karine Jean-Pierre? And she's substituted for former White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki. Shout out to our friend Zulu in the chat. Yeah, I'm probably disappointed on that one. Sorry, Zulu. Psaki got subbed out with Karine. Yeah, well. White House defendants, in accordance with the previous expedited discovery order, plaintiffs served interrogatories and document requests upon the White House press secretary, Karine. Oh, man. And upon Dr. Anthony Fauci in his capacity as chief medical advisor to the president, poor man, government defendants have refused to provide anti-interrogatory responses or responsive documents, maintaining that these would be internal communications that would implicate serious separation of powers concerns. The DOJ is complaining about separation of power. It says the states are required to exhaust other avenues for that discovery first before, it becomes unduly burdensome and disproportional to the needs of the case. The states say that they have not served interrogatories or documents upon Biden, and they don't seek internal communications. They only want external communications that Fauci and Jean-Pierre sent to the social media companies. They say, we don't want emails between Biden and Jen, or Karine and Jen, or Karine and Biden. We want their emails with social media companies. So it's not internal. The judge says, first, the requested information is obviously very relevant to the state's claims. I mean, Dr. Fauci's communications would be relevant to the state's allegations in reference to the alleged suppression of speech relating to, the lab leak theory of the origin of COVID, and to the alleged suppression of speech about the efficiency of masks and COVID lockdowns. Yeah, pretty damn relevant. Jean-Pierre's communications as White House press secretary could be relevant to all of the state's examples, all of them. And the judge gives us footnote 6 here, listing all of them, page 14, 20, 23, 25, 36, and on. The government, the Biden administration, the judge says, they're making a blanket assertion of all communications to social media platforms by Fauci and Jean-Pierre based on executive privilege and presidential communications privilege. Oh, so suddenly that executive privilege comes into play, isn't it? Very interesting. Now, plaintiffs, the states, concede that they're not asking for any internal communications, only external communications between Jean-Pierre and the third-party companies. Now, this judge finally says, this court believes that the states are entitled to external communications by Karine and Fauci in their capacities as White House press secretary and chief medical advisor to the president and the third-party social media platforms. Oh, that is delicious. Did you see that? It says the court believes that the states, Missouri, Louisiana, and others, are entitled to the external communications by Karine and Dr. Fauci in their official roles as press secretary and chief medical advisor. The White House has waived its claim of privilege in relation to specific documents that it voluntarily revealed to third parties outside the White House. See also a D.C. District Court case from 2013, another one from 1997, another one from 2018, saying that when you send documents outside of your little executive bubble, you're now waiving those claims. The judge references 3 separate cases that support that ruling. The government Biden defendants, they say that the plaintiffs must seek discovery from other sources. Right? You can't get it from us, go get it from somebody else. The judge said no. That's not how that works. Said this is an expedited preliminary injunction related discovery. The discovery was opposed by the government defendants. You don't want to give it to them. This is the only chance that plaintiffs will have to get this information prior to addressing the preliminary injunction. So there's no time, there's no ability to get it anywhere else. You got to give it to them. This discovery was tailored to the facts alleged in this case. There was no requirement in this court's order for the states to get this information from other plaintiffs or other sources first. Judge says, additionally, the states have submitted interrogatories and production requests to the third-party social media companies. They've already done that, by the way. And as far as the burden to the White House, it's no more burden than any other discovery request that they've already answered. Okay, you guys have already been responding to them. You've given them what you said, 15,000 documents. And so this is just not much more. Just do what you're already doing. Therefore, the judge rules, government defendants Karine Jean-Pierre and Dr. Anthony Fauci shall provide answers to the state's interrogatories and their document requests within 21 days from the date of this order. Oh, how sweet it is. Those emails from Dr. Fauci are going to be coming out hot soon enough. We have another paragraph from the judge, and we're wrapping up, says that the HHS and Dr. Fauci as the NIAID director, saying, in addition to being named in his capacity as the White House chief medical advisor, Fauci was over there also at the NIAID. Interrogatories and document requests have also been served upon Fauci in that capacity, right? So Fauci was wearing multiple hats, saying that he was the White House medical advisor, but then he'd sort of take that hat off and he'd stop, doing what he was doing over there, walk back over to the NIAID and do whatever he was doing over there, whatever sort of genetic recombination or whatever they do over there. So he's, hanging out over there in both houses. And the judge said, okay, well, we want emails between you and White House correspondent as to your communication with the social media companies. But how about your role as the NIAID? The judge rules accordingly. The judge says, Biden defendants argue that they have already agreed to provide answers on behalf of Dr. Fauci on the various interrogatories. They say that they're amending additional interrogatories in lieu of other things. But the states say that they served interrogatories on Health and Human Services, footnote 8, which is an agency that is over the NIAID, is what they're saying. The states allege that Health and Human Services has effectively exempted itself from the discovery responses by only providing certain responses from certain agencies, right? So what they're saying is Health and Human Services is a big umbrella, and all of these other agencies are underneath it. The Surgeon General's office, the NIAID, the CDC. And they're saying that when they wanted info from the HHS, they got info from these various independent agencies. The states say, well, Meta, one of these companies, disclosed several senior officials outside of those agencies, outside of the CDC, outside of the Surgeon General, outside of the NIAID, but maybe still within that purview of the rest of HHS, saying that they likely engaged in conversations with Meta. That includes the Deputy Assistant Secretary for Public Engagement, HHS's digital engagement team, the Deputy Director of Communications at HRSA, and so on, right? These are all like the social media people that maybe aren't within the actual NIAID or the Office of Surgeon General or the CDC. They might have their own sort of HHS social media group. And they're saying, well, we're going to give you the stuff from within the CDC, but maybe not that other group. And that might be where all the stuff is. You'd expect that maybe the HHS Deputy Digital Director would be doing a lot of communication with the social media companies, if you had to guess. Plaintiffs allege, the states say, that none of these communications were disclosed by the government in answering their discovery request. They left all those people out. Why? Because they were communicating with everybody. The judge continues. Now, as to the Health and Human Services discovery, the Biden people assert that they identified custodians likely to have relevant information, but that they're not required to conduct a search of all 80,000 employees, which is overly burdensome. The judge says, we're on page 9, the court agrees that conducting a search of all 80,000 employees would be overly burdensome. However, the states have identified several HHS employees which have been identified by Meta as being responsive, and they've listed them here, saying in the judge rules, it would not be unduly burdensome for the government defendants to provide this discovery. Therefore, the judge rules, the government Biden defendants shall provide responses to the states within 21 days of this order. And lastly, the final subparagraph about Dr. Anthony Fauci, the judge rules, she says, in responding to the expedited discovery request regarding Dr. Fauci in his capacity as the NIAID director, the government defendants shall provide responses to the states for all of these additional interrogatories no later than 21 days from the date of this order. And all discovery requests that have not been addressed are accordingly denied. And so the conclusion, the judge writes, it is ordered that the discovery issues contained is granted in part, denied in part, further ordered, more discovery is due within 21 days, signed and ordered the 6th day of September out of Monroe, Louisiana, signed by Judge Terry A. Dowdy, United States District Court judge. And so major victory for the states and the people who want to know what the federal government was doing, who they were colluding with to suppress information. They call it misinformation. We call it opinions and dialogue about issues that pertain to all of us. But as the judge ruled, more emails from Fauci, more emails from the White House press secretary, whether it was Jen Psaki or her substitute, Karine, all of those conversations that they were having with Meta and YouTube and Twitter, all disclosable, and they got to do it quickly. And so we'll continue to follow that case in detail. But after the order came out, the White House was asked about this. Karine Jean-Pierre, press secretary, asked by somebody in the media, said, hey, you just got ordered to disclose all these emails that we know you really don't want to disclose. Do you have anything to say about that, Karine?
So a federal judge talked about the social media lawsuits from Missouri and Louisiana. A federal judge ordered that you have 20 days to turn over emails communicating with social media companies over misinformation and disinformation. What are those emails going to show? What kind of communication?
So I can't comment. You've asked me this question last week. I can't comment on any specifically ongoing litigation. And so again, we would refer you to Department of Justice. A couple of things that I would say on just
no comment again. The first time that she got asked about this, there was no comment. Now it comes up again, still no comment.
As a general matter on this, as we've said over and over again since the beginning of the administration in our battle against COVID-19, it has been critical for the American people to have access to factual, accurate, science-based information and ensuring that any media platforms have access to latest information on a once-in-a-generation pandemic is something that has been done since the earliest days of the pandemic.
So it sounds like she's confident that her information was very good and accurate, and she wanted to make sure through her administration that you got the most appropriate information, even though a lot of that information that they were trying to shove down our gullets has suddenly been proven not accurate. Well, all right. So they were out there. No comments about any of that. I'm sure we're going to learn a lot more when those emails are revealed. This is Senator Rand Paul, who has been all over Anthony Fauci, been making sure that he is held accountable for all of his lies that he's told to us over the years. And now he's reacting to the new order from the court saying that Fauci's emails are going to be made public. Rand Paul has gotten into it with Fauci many times over the years in Congress and outside of Congress. And he's been somebody who's communicated about all the nefarious misdeeds that were taking place within the NIAID. And here he is explaining how much money in terms of profits that they received as a result of, well, what they sold all of us.
Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky is a physician who joins us now. So I think we're just going to see a mountain of communications from Fauci, the White House, to Zuckerberg, to Twitter. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. What are you expecting?
I think that all of America should be appalled that America's doctor, the leading expert on COVID and public health, doesn't want to divulge information, doesn't want to divulge his communications with big tech. But it goes even beyond that. The last time I had him in a hearing, we told him that through freedom of information, we discovered that 193 NIH scientists had taken, it was 1,800 scientists had taken $193 million in royalties. And his response was, not that I'll look into it and I'll reveal it. His response was, by law, we don't have to tell you.
And we covered that hearing in detail. And Fauci sat there with his smug little face and he said, well, we kind of just do these things. These are hardworking people and they make deals and sometimes they get profits.
Which companies gave us how many royalties and to which scientists? So this is a guy that his modus operandi is to cover up and try to not allow any sunshine on any of his activities. That should be a tip-off as to his motives.
It sure does. And
Anthony Fauci, we all know, is going to be retiring soon. Many people speculating that is to get out of the blast zone, doesn't want to get caught when the Republicans are back in charge. And we can see why. Well, there's a lot of money being floated around here. And now Fauci is making some new claims about what we have to do in order to be good citizens and following the science. And of course, you can go follow that along elsewhere. But the big tech lawsuit will continue on. We will continue to cover it. Now, this discovery, once it is unveiled, I'm guessing that it's going to be just wrapped in a big stinking mass of documents. And so it will take a lot of heavy lifting to unpack that, unravel that, and see where all this nefarious lies. But we'll certainly do that here. And I appreciate you subscribing, sharing this video, liking this video, and joining us as we continue to cover all of this wild stuff taking place in our government. And we've got one more final segment before we wrap it up for the day, my friends. And we're staying in D.C. Washington, D.C., the center place of America, is now under another state of emergency. Can you believe it? D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser, the same mayor who really didn't want the National Guard when J6 rallies was becoming hot, she now wanted the National Guard to deal with something else, a migrant crisis. And since her city is not able to get their bearings straight, this is becoming a major crisis. And of course, she is now out declaring a state of emergency. So we'll take a look at this. Mayor Muriel Bowser is responding to the busing of immigrants that has been taking place for quite some time. I don't have much background on that story, but remember that the various states, Arizona and Texas and others, were busing migrants because we have a serious migrant problem at our border. We've had a broken border for my entire life here, and the states are starting to get tired of it, especially when a current administration like the Bidens has refused to do anything about it. So now that what they're doing is they're busing people to other locations. One of those locations is Washington, D.C. Another location is Chicago, Illinois. And both of these states have previously declared themselves to be sanctuary cities. Remember, Mayor Muriel Bowser, the mayor of Washington, D.C., said this many times over, repeated this at length on her Twitter. She said this, first of all, when Donald Trump was building the wall, you can see that tweet is not available anymore. She posted on Twitter back on June 1st, 2017, saying, "Tear it down. D.C. is a sanctuary city." Clearly, the flyer is meant to scare and divide our residents. We won't stand for it, right? So the mayor's saying it is a sanctuary city. Mayor Muriel Bowser also said this, said Washington, D.C. is a sanctuary city on another post. This coming from the official mayor account on Twitter. Says, "We protect the rights and the humanity of all our residents, and our D.C. values and our local culture are guided by a celebration of diversity and inclusivity." Hashtag thread. See the full statement below. So you see those words? We protect the rights and the humanity of our residents. And we have DC values. And we're guided by a celebration of diversity and inclusivity. And she posted this statement. She said in the first sentence, Washington, D.C. is a sanctuary city. That is why we created the Immigrant Justice Legal Services Grant Program, so that immigrants have the right to resources they need to undertake their rights, to find legal support, and we're going to continue to make that program a top priority. And he says, unfortunately, immigrants have been made to live in fear. We stand up for our neighbors. We must send a message loud and clear to Congress that we are not a country of fear, and that we know these inhumane actions do not make us any safer, and that this is not the type of leadership, or the lack thereof, that Americans want. That's Mayor Muriel Bowser. All right. So she runs Washington, D.C. over there. And after the busing of migrants from the border states started appearing at her doorstep, she had a little bit of a different tune. This is the Washington, D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser now announcing they don't know what to do about all these migrants and they have to declare a state of emergency.
We are allocating an initial $10 million to stand up the new office and support organizations working in the field. We will seek reimbursement from FEMA for all eligible services.
Federal
and we
emergency
have experience
management.
working with FEMA on the reimbursement of eligible services. And I'll say a little bit more about what we think FEMA could do to make sure that states and cities like ours aren't left holding the bag.
So that states and cities like theirs are not left holding the bag. And so FEMA, of course, is a federal agency. And so, of course, your tax dollars are going to go to FEMA, which will go into the Washington, D.C. coffers when they get their $10 million reimbursement back from the federal government or something, all because they don't want to do anything to secure the border.
And so in order to create this new offices, I am declaring a public emergency.
Wow.
And this public emergency will give my administration the following authority. To establish a migrant services office with the DHS and direct the department to provide services and supports to migrants arriving from the southern border states, authorize the city administrator and the chief financial officer to set aside and spend funds to respond to the emergency, to authorize the chief procurement officer to respond to the emergency.
It's another state of emergency, a self-inflicted state of emergency, because our federal government can't even get the borders figured out. And, this is kind of a shocking thing. In Arizona, we're used to being ignored by the federal government. We just kind of get that. It's like, well, they're 3,000 miles away, whatever. They haven't cared at all. They're not going to care anytime recently. And so we're going to have to take care of it ourselves. But what's curious is that the federal government is also incapable of, I guess, caring for themselves right in their own backyard. I mean, this is the same place that all the senators go and all the Republicans and Democrats go to cocktail parties at all of these different affairs there. And they're so incompetent that they can't even manage this crisis in their own backyard. How are the rest of us ever supposed to think that they'll do anything remotely competent thousands of miles away, right? It's just a foregone conclusion they won't. But hey, at least they're feeling some of the consequences of a reckless border policy. Here is Citycouncilperson Brianne Nadeau, who is a council member over from Ward number 1 out of Washington, D.C., and she's going to be explaining what these consequences feel like. And she's going to use this phrase. She's going to say, we're becoming a border town. Oh my gosh. Like that's, like that's a horrific thing. And there's border towns all over the southern border. And yeah, they're getting completely overran. There's footage of it all over the place. Here is Brianne Nadeau.
So it's been said, but it's worth reiterating.
Tell us.
That the governors of Texas and Arizona have created this crisis.
Yeah, totally our fault.
The federal government has not stepped up to assist the District of Columbia. So we, along with our regional partners, will do what we've always done.
Washington, D.C. and their regional partners. Do you have any idea how much money is in Washington, D.C.? It's one of the richest places in the whole world, filled with leftists and Democrats. And so this woman, what's her name? Brianne. All right, Brianne is here.
Rise to the occasion. We've learned from border towns like El Paso and Brownsville. And in many ways, the governors of Texas and Arizona have turned us into a border town. We don't know how long this will take to resolve. We don't know how long they will continue busing. And so the right thing to do here is to be prepared to ensure we can greet every bus.
What does that mean? What does a border town mean? I thought like a bunch of racist Arizonans or something. I mean, is that what she means? I don't know what that means. Turned her into a border town. It feels pejorative, right? Racist, K-Bean? What does it mean? Racists? I don't know what it means.
We can get people off on the right foot. We can get them where they want to go. And that will ultimately help them.
Now, wait a minute. Where'd she say? I thought that they were going to integrate them into their communities because they value diversity and inclusion. What did she say? Where are they going?
Here is to be prepared to ensure we can greet every bus. We can get people off on the right foot. We can get them where they want to go. And that will ultimately help them in their immigration process.
Get them where they want to go, as long as it's not in Washington, D.C. Just get the hell out of here. We don't want you here. We said we did. But we got 11,000 of you and we don't want you anymore. So now you have to go someplace else. Now, this is a result of their ridiculous policies. This policy came from the Biden administration directly. They did, to their benefit, they did send Kamala Harris down to Guatemala, where she scolded, wagged her fingers at all the Guatemalans. And she said, "Don't you come to our country." And then she came back and undid a bunch of policies and said the border's wide open. And so I guess her words didn't match the policy. And guess what they listened to? The policy. And what happens when that is what the policy is? Well, here we learn from CNN that we have a record number of dead migrants crossing the United States border. Well done, Joe Biden administration, well done with your humanitarianism and your inclusivity and your diversity. Very good job. Record numbers of dead migrants coming across the border. And you can see it here. Nearly 750 migrants had died at the southern border this fiscal year, a record that surpasses last year's total by more than 200 people. Yeah, it's going up. DHS shared the figures. And we've talked about this. I said this, it makes me sick. It says, oppressive desert heat. It's 115 degrees out here some days. Dangerous waters and falling from the border wall. It is now an included death. How many people died from falling from the border wall? Oh, they're going to blame Trump. Can you believe this? Trump is murdering immigrants because they're falling from the border wall, according to CNN. We live in the dumbest timeline, I swear. Since October 1st, which marks the start of the fiscal year, there have been 748 deaths. That's up, okay? That's up. 557 with a month left still to go. That's up from 557 that took place in 2021. The figures don't always capture all the deaths, obviously, right? That's stuff that is on the United States side of the border. But anybody who is on the Mexican side of the border, probably not being counted in those DHS numbers. So 750, you got to imagine, is like low. Last week, the bodies of at least 8 migrants who came, Kamala said don't come, but they came and now they're dead, trying to cross the U.S. border were found in the Rio Grande, Customs and Border Protection said. The remains were discovered by agents and authorities. An increasing number of migrants continue to appear at the border. Arrests of migrants remain high. In July of this year, okay, now I want to put this in context. Washington, D.C. is freaking out about 11,000 migrants. In July, the U.S. Border Patrol made more than 181,000 arrests. So how many? That's arrests. In the past, many migrant deaths have been related to heat exposure. Advocates for migrants say that they may be forced to take increasingly risky paths to reach the border because of Trump-era policies. Yeah, there you go. Deaths along the U.S. border have been rising over the years. Fiscal year 2020, in 2020, okay, the last year that Trump was out, there were 247 deaths, 300 the year before that. So Joe Biden's up to 748, up from about Trump, the sort of in 2020, 247 up to about 740 something. Transnational criminal organizations are behind it all. There have been tens of thousands of searches, and the whole border is just a total disaster. And the Biden administration is just allowing dead migrants to pile up all over the place. Meanwhile, we see that other cities and other states are not wanting the migrants either. We have this state of Illinois and Governor Pritzker saying that the Texas governor is sowing chaos by sending these migrants over to Chicago. Here is Governor Pritzker today.
Obviously, another busload of migrants came into Chicago last night.
Another bus arrived.
To Governor Abbott's office to see what, if anything.
Have you been talking with the governor to see what is going on here?
Do you expect these buses will continue for some time, maybe to the election?
At the staff level, our staffs have been in contact with one another, but they have been wholly uncooperative.
Wholly uncooperative.
They are trying to sow chaos around the country, not just here in
Chicago. To sow chaos, yeah.
And as you've heard, the mayor also has, had words about this, and
those dang flies, pesky.
We're going to do everything we can to care for these are refugees and asylum seekers. Who are escaping their homes to come to the United States of America, and it shouldn't be that the governor of Texas is essentially taking these people, treating them like chattel, treating them like property, putting them on buses, sending them wherever he wants to send.
Yeah, he definitely should not send them wherever he wants to send them, right? Like, he shouldn't just send them to Chicago and he's treating them like chattel. He's treating them like cattle. He's treating them like pieces of property. And it's just horrific what he's doing. It absolutely shouldn't happen. Shouldn't happen at all. But that's weird. What is this story over from Fox News? It says, migrants that are being bused to Sanctuary City in Chicago are promptly shipped off to the suburbs. So as soon as they get there, Governor Pritzker's like, we don't want you in Chicago. All right, so you got to get the heck out of here. The immigrants were sent to Chicago as part of Governor Abbott's response to the migrant crisis. A group of over 100 migrants from the southern border were moved to an Illinois suburb after being welcomed in Chicago, an action that is reportedly frustrating local officials. Migrants are staying at a Hampton Inn bar at Burbridge and Holiday Inn in Countryside. Chicago is a sanctuary city and Cook County is a sanctuary county. The migrants at the Burr Ridge Hampton Inn are in DuPage County. The county's sanctuary status is unclear, right? So they're shipping them to non-sanctuary cities. They're like, we don't want you here, right? So these lefty Democrats will get out there in front of the media and they'll say, I can't believe they're treating these people like cattle. They're shipping them all over the country. They show up in Chicago, in a sanctuary city, in a sanctuary county called Cook County, and they ship them right over into DuPage, into a neighboring county. And now they're all, nobody wants anything to do with them. But they're okay with them piling across the border. And we know that there's been all sorts of back and forth. I'm the mayor. I should have been told. I'm frustrated at the mayor. And Mayor Lightfoot was in her not being told. Everybody's frustrated because everybody is, nobody wants to take care of these migrants. But they're okay encouraging them and incentivizing them to come be a part of the American dream, saying that anybody who challenges them is nothing more than a racist. Well, all of them seem very, very NIMBY, not in my backyard. They don't want they want to talk all about it. A lot of sloganeering from afar. But when the reality hits, they don't want anything to do with them. Disgusting. Meanwhile, people are dropping dead at the border as a result of their policies. So we'll continue to cover this, and I hope you join us. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for hitting the like button. And that, my friends, is it for the segments on the day. We covered a lot of ground. We covered some Bannon stuff, 35 homes raided according to Bannon, responses from senators. We've got the Big Tech Collusion lawsuit update, did some heavy lifting on that, read the 10-page order, got no comments from the White House. And we wrapped up with the state of emergency over from Washington, D.C. And now it is time to hear from you, my friends. I want to see what your comments have to say from our friends over at watchingthewatchers.locals.com and from some of those YouTube super chats that I saw coming in hot. And so let me just do a quick refresh over on the locals before we jump over here on YouTube. And I saw Mark Owen started us off at the start of the day. He said, I wanted to be the first one to discover the Squid Game Chicago. Remember, I called it the first one to discover the Squid Game Chicago. So I think, I don't know what you're going for there, Mark, but yeah, Squid Game was an interesting show that was sort of like a purge episode. Right? It was like everybody's dying, the last one wins type of thing. Some of these cities are looking like that. I mean, Memphis, we talked a little bit about that on our morning walk and talk, and Squid Game Chicago. Sounds like a video game. Here we got Alan M. says, FBI, DOJ, Biden regime sound like the same people that are saying that they are against and going after the irony. Yeah, it's right. I think your point, Alan, is well taken. These people are out there calling and castigating all of the righties as being dangerous, insurrectionists, murderers, wanting to undermine American democracy, so on and so forth. But their Democratic politician murdered a journalist, right? Not a Republican politician. So there's a lot of that going on. Yeah, and they say that people want to censor speech and the Republicans want to, ban all this, that, and the other, and they're the ones doing it. Isaac Bowles says, I've been following you for over 2 years. Well, that's amazing, Isaac, first of all. Says, I had no idea you were a fellow nuclear MAGA. Well, look, what choice do I have at this point, my friends? I mean, Biden said it himself. Either you are with Joe Biden or you are a MAGA Republican. You can't have it both. I didn't write the rules. Joe Biden did, right? What these psychopaths have done is forced everybody to basically be MAGA or not. Like, what else? What alternative is there? All right. Thank you, Isaac. We've got Oil Smoke Jones. He says, is the strength being diluted of the universal excuse matter of national defense? Yes. It's like the word racist. Everything is racist and everything is a matter of national defense. Okay. If so, what if there is an actual national defense issue in the future? Crying wolf. Nobody's going to believe it. Nobody's going to believe it. I wouldn't believe it. If they came out and they said, no, there was like a serious problem at Donald Trump's house, I'd say, whatever. Whatever you say. You have no credibility at all. I've read documents showing the FBI's malfeasance here on the screen. How many hours? I don't know how many hours. We read the entire Sussman trial, the entire thing, for 2 weeks. So we've seen it, the negligence and the malfeasance and the nefariousness. So, yeah, so I don't believe him for a minute. And why should we? Lying dog face pony soldier with the super chat, no question. Here's another one from Lying. Says, no comment on her case, but Trump's is okay. No problem. From Lying Dog Pony Face Soldier. Thank you for that, Lion Dog Pony Face Soldier. Vienti Kiss is over on Locals, and he's starting us off. He says, Happy Cash Friday, baby. He says, I just got my electric bill here in Jersey, and it was $500, more than double last year's. Ugh. And someone stole my credit card info. But we need to make sure that the FBI raids everyone associated with Trump so billionaires can be happier about themselves. Regardless of whether Bannon's claim about the 35 raids is true, we all know we can expect it. Well, yeah, and it may not have it may not have been 35, but yeah, there were more than 35 raids of Trump supporters, obviously. We had another one. Oh, Paul Minot is getting back on the GIF debate. Hard G, soft G, hard G, soft G. Paul Minot, 3 girlies and Heathers are in the house. Former says, I see that Dan Bongino picked up on the Democrats attempting to bankrupt the country with zero down, no closing cost. Just like the last time they tried this moronic plan. Stupid is as stupid does. Yeah, don't they want, it's like housing regulations or something. Paul says, Steve Wilhite, first mega troll. Invents the graphics interchange format, then pronounces it as the giraffics interchange format. Yeah, that's amazing. That's pretty good. Yeah. That's pretty good. I like that stuff. You know, it's the epic trolls from the grave. Outstanding, Paul. All right, we've got another one from Wild Type Mind. He says, when someone acts strangely, ask not how they could be so misguided. Ask rather, what unusual circumstance must be true to render the behavior rational? Jeff Gurman, the Vegas reporter who was allegedly murdered by Clark County Public Administrator Robert Tellis, turned out to have been a bit of a gadfly. His work is free to see at the Las Vegas Journal. Let me click this link and we'll just do a quick scroll through here. And it does look like we've got, here's his articles. Travel firms go to Nevada. Deal struck in high stakes legal battle. Here's some of his articles, right? May he rest in peace. Murdered by a Democratic politician. Terrible. All right. We had another one. Thank you, Wild Type. From Paul Minot. Here, what is this one? Always use acronyms to simplify complex ideas. AUATSCI. Yeah, there you go. Thank you, Paul. Here's from Jason on Blast. He says, Joe Biden did seem to declare a state of war against the Republican Party, its people, and its leaders. The 35 Trump closest that were raided all on the same day, likely a couple of them politicians. Poso was one. Was he? I didn't see that, but while it may be signs of a decaying regime, as Bannon has stated, regimes throughout history have tended to fight and get ugly, refusing to give up power when they are totalitarian and losing support. Could it be that they propagandize and refuse to honor the will of the people, telling them that it's for their safety and protection, or lie and spread it that it benefits the people somehow in a critical way for a critical reason made up? I ponder if this is where we are at and the prospect of 2024 may never come. Not to be totally black-pilled, but yeah, well, I think you're saying that maybe there's nothing else to be done. You know, the writing's on the wall, which is not a good sign. Here, The Veil says, can we please do investigative discovery on all the folks coming up with then writing the discovery documents and the people going to be the judges and raid the folks' home, and the folks being raided happen to support a real winning candidate? It's not like the people voted in a loser. That is from The Veil. Thank you, See The Veil. Radice says, you called Hippy Dippy Cali Girl a call girl. Did I? It's Callie. Sorry to disappoint you. I don't think you have call girls in your YouTube chat. Happy Friday. Yeah, well, sorry about that, Cali girl. Cali girl, are you still out there? I don't see you, but if you're out there, please accept my sincerest apologies. I do not think that you're a call girl. I think that you're a Cali girl. All right, let's do a refresh over on locals and see what else came in. We had a couple more. And where did these go? Yes, here it is. Former LEO. He says, in reality, it feels like Night of the Long Knives, and everyone living in a civilized society knows how that ended. It's Hitler Part 2. Heather says, I was hoping you were going to cover this today. This one. I didn't cover it. Judge threatens. I did not cover the I was going to if there was. I'll probably put this in when there's more Trump news. Three girlies. Yeah, I did see that. So she's referencing two stories. There'll be a docket update on Trump. I looked at the dockets for both Trump stories today. They were basically dead. But here, there are two stories. The Trump versus Clinton lawsuit got dismissed, and the judge is actually threatening sanctions. I did see a response from Alina Abba on this, and she said that they were going to be appealing it, and so we'll see. But yeah, probably next week. I think that we're going to have responses. We have some responses that are due. For Trump, we've got responses, I think, on the government's motion on the 12th. Yeah, so on Monday, we'll probably talk about that lawsuit, Heather, or the dismissal. But yeah, the judge ordered. Yesterday, we covered the stay. Remember, the prosecutors asked for a stay, and the judge ordered a response from Trump on Monday. So we'll get that. Here's another one from Paul. Can't stop, won't stop. Trying to make your Jiffy stop. Here we have Vientika says, Facebook is labeling people as disinformation at the behest of the government and labeling cam girls as terrorists at the behest of OnlyFans. Is that true? Here's another one from Former. Says, too bad we don't have an organization that cares about civil rights of Americans. Oh yeah, wait. I just rediscovered the ACLU. They were only active in the 1960s and 70s that I lived through. That was then, this is now. Now they are Democrat controlled and they have Democrat masters. Kind of strange when this is viewed through the lens of history. I guess that at one time the ACLU actually cared about supporting the Constitution and the rights of the citizens, but that was then and this is now. I remember some of those days, Former. I really do. I remember when the ACLU was fighting for free speech, and now I don't know what they're fighting for. Three Girlie says, sorry, I'm a little behind. What I don't get is that Garland's DOJ and Wray's FBI can leak to reporters, but they can't handle whistleblowing reports to Congress. That seems a little bit backwards. Is the claim on separation of powers, what is Garland's justification for not allowing whistleblowers to talk to Congress? Probably like integrity of investigations, would be, if you looked at the manual, it'd be something about that. I know his reasoning behind it because, well, and by the way, he doesn't say whistleblowers, right? He doesn't say that. He says, employees, right? I know his reasoning behind it, but it's as crooked as can be. It sounds like there's no legitimate justification to hold anybody who is a whistleblower back. Yeah, I don't think he has a legal basis for it, Three Girlies. I think instead he's trying to chill the speech by reminding people of the policy, right? It's like at your office or, and it's like, what time do we start? 8:00 or whatever, what kind of shirts do we wear here? And he's kind of doing that. It's not saying that you can't, it's, I think you get it. Thunder7 said from Harmeet. This looks like it's okay. Oh my gosh. So this looks like a tweet. So Thunder7, Harmeet K. Dillon, who is an excellent lawyer on Twitter, must follow, replying to Charlie Kirk saying, can confirm this happened to many Trump allies I know as well. So they're getting the reports from all the different people who have been invaded by the FBI. Thank you for that detail, Thunder7. And yeah, right. This stuff takes time to percolate and you have to figure out, all of these things are probably sealed. If they are sealed, if there were really 35 that took place on the same day, that would be, a big effort. And then those documents at some point will be unsealed. So we'll look at them. Of course. Comment from Wild Type Mind. He says, Dr. Martin Kulldorff, Bhattacharya, Sunatra Gupta, named in the lawsuit, are three people responsible for a declaration that came out. FOIA requests months ago revealed that Francis Collin did things in departments, led to his resignation. failing upwards. He's now temporarily in the cabinet level advisory chair that was vacated by a geneticist named Eric Lander, appointed by, gosh. Yeah, most people have no idea that Collins is still in play. P.S. A wild-type mouse is a very useful lab animal. As a scientist and a veteran who does not appreciate the president threatening me with nukes, I am a wild-type mind. I have escaped from their labs. If you're going to pay my student loans, I figure the least I can do is help you fine folks interpret the tea leaves. Thanks. Yeah. Thank you for that service. Yes, that's we're going to be paying your student loans off. Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you. Yeah, so that's great. I get careful. I get cautious about reading some of the medical stuff because I got slapped on YouTube for medical misinformation more than once, and I got to be careful. And so, Three Girlies, if you want to dive into that conversation a little bit more, then go check that out. Let's see here. Well, let me play this real quickly. We can shine. What is this? Oh, it's a spotlight excerpt for the spotlight. If I wanted to just play the. What the heck is this? All right, let's just play it. We can shine that big, beautiful spotlight. Big, beautiful spotlight. Big, beautiful spotlight. Big, beautiful spotlight. Oh, God. Oh, gosh. Thank you. Who did that? Was that Paul? Oh, my gosh. Well, that is like a whole remix right there. Paul, you are a meme smith, my friend. That's like some fancy meme smithing right there. That's some fancy video editing right there. Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. I'm going to have to send that to a couple people. Thank you for doing that, Paul. And thank you, emotional old cat lady. We have Speech Unleashed saying, my guess is that the requested emails will suddenly end up being mysteriously deleted. Most likely Russia will be blamed for it. Yep. Yeah, I could imagine that. You know, why just get bleach bit in there, send Hillary Clinton in there, and go over there. No one you know says, hey, Rob, do you have any big tech, if any, of the big tech manipulation happened under the prior administration? I'm aware of the lawsuit specifically calls out the Bidens, but I'm wondering if there's any communication from Fauci or the CDC while still under the Trump admin, if you know. I don't know, but no, I would imagine that the requests from the states would go all the way back into the, beginning of the pandemic. Like the request, the interrogatories, I would imagine would go all the way back. And I'd want to know, right? I'd want to know. But I feel like most of the censorship and the misinformation crap really started coming after the transition, right? I mean, Trump got booted off, and then the conversations changed pretty dramatically. Three Girlies is here, says, what happens if they don't get the emails to the states in the 21 days? What would the court do if they don't follow through? Well, typically, the way this stuff happens would be like the judge would order it's actually called an order to show cause. And it is basically, it's a hearing. It's a proceeding where everybody shows up and they have to explain themselves. It's like you're in trouble. It's like when you use the youngest girlie's middle name type of a thing. And she has to come running. She's like, oh, crap, I'm in big trouble right now. My mom used to do that. Like, oh, use a full name, big trouble. And so that's kind of what the court is doing. It's like, get your butts in here and explain why you're not giving me these documents. Now, at that point, if the court, if it's like open, like flouting of the rules, if they just say, no, I'm not giving you those documents. And then you just, okay, well, you're going to be sanctioned then. I'm going to fine you whatever until you provide those documents, or I'm going to do something, with your case or something. So it could be a problem, but typically it's an order to show cause first. This one is from C. Reed. From C. Reed. Vientikis. From Tricky. Oh, my goodness. A big one from Tricky in the house. She says, you're the best at exposing and unboxing all this BS. So glad I found your channel and joined your locals. Well, Tricky, we are grateful to have you. And that was a Rumble rant. The Rumble rants are hard. Oh, there it is. I can see that one. Yeah, I can see that clean as day because it's such a big, juicy one. Here, let's pull that up on the screen here so we can all enjoy that delicious Rumble rant right there from Tricky. Thank you very much for that, Tricky. I'm glad that you joined up over there, and it's a lot of fun. This wouldn't be possible without you and your support, and so I'm grateful that you are here and with us. We had another one from Paul. He says, after defiantly bragging that they run sanctuary cities, Dem Party mayors are now crying because busloads of Bidens sanctioned illegal immigrants have been shipped to them from Texas. Nobody told you mayors what sanctuary city actually means? That's the old Norm Macdonald. May he rest in peace. How I miss him so. We also have Vientikis. He says, I'm waiting for a state of emergency to give more money to Ukraine. Yeah, that's probably true. Yeah. We keep doing our weekly laundering of tax funds. How much have we supposedly sent over there? We've got to be near $500 billion by now. Wild Child says Ukraine war about $50 billion. $50 billion. $50 billion. Oh my gosh. That's a lot of money. Here, Thunder 7 says sanctuary city mayors welcomes migrants bus from Texas and then ships them to the suburbs, which we talked about. Lori Lightfoot has previously declared the Windy City a welcoming sanctuary city, but then ships them off into the suburbs. Vientikis says, somebody pointed this out the other day, and now I can't unsee it. But why does every sign language interpreter look like a stereotypical lesbian? I don't know. I don't know. But now that you pointed out, it's hard to unsee that. I think that you're right about that. Paul says, dude, we're a sanctuary flock. We don't care if he's like illegal. Who wrote that one? 70DN. That's a spicy one. That's a spicy one. Totally. Here's another one from Thunder 7 for Meme Friday. Yeah, I forgot to mention that. We'll start doing the Meme Fridays. Says here from Carrie Lake, when I become governor, I will send armed National Guard troops to the border to arrest and detain illegal aliens invading Arizona. Then we will send them back. Think I'm bluffing? Just wait. No, I don't think she's bluffing. I think that she'll definitely do it. Repost if you want to see Carrie Lake as the governor of Arizona. I do. I certainly do. Let's see what else we've got here. All right, couple more. Emotional old cat lady is here saying, here's Kamala saying, don't come. She almost whispered it. Let's see here. This is the dumbest speech. We played this like 35 times when she said it. I was like, well, there it is, America. Our new vice president is solving this for all of us.
Folks in this region who are thinking about making that dangerous trek to the United States-Mexico border, do not come. Do not come.
Do not come.
Folks in this region who are thinking about making that dangerous trek to the United States-Mexico border,
do not come. Okay, so that's the vice president. Didn't work. Kamala didn't work. They're still coming. They're still coming every day, a whole lot of them. And your orders did not work. Thunder 7 says, breaking news from Paul Sperry, Biden DOJ planning more raids of Mar-a-Lago and other Trump properties, according to sources. Oh my goodness, that would just be out of control. We have another one from Three Girlies says, so funny thing is DC cannot call up the National Guard themselves. They must go through the president. That authority has been delegated to the DOD. Yeah, and we've seen this. They've actually requested it, I think, twice now. And Lloyd Austin, Secretary of Defense, said, no, sorry, you don't get them. States can call up their own National Guard, but Maryland, Virginia, and Delaware National Guards cannot go into D.C. without having the approval of the president through the DOD because they have to fall under the D.C. Guard even if they're from other states. There has been talk of allowing the D.C. to have control of the National Guard, but this would have to go through Congress, and I don't think it would pass either house of Congress. Citing the Brennan Center. That's some heavy lifting there, Three Girlies. That's some good stuff. I sort of knew that the DOD did it because I knew that Lloyd Austin had denied it, but I didn't know that they were talking about all of this stuff. That's very fascinating. And think about the implications of that, right? Because now you could have technically like the DC mayor bring in the National Guard and militarize the Capitol. Right? I think I agree with you. I don't think that anybody would pass that because they don't want to give that power away. Former LEO says, is it funny that nobody has actually named the person solely responsible for the problem? This issue was caused by the Democrats, and they won't step up and fix the problems by controlling the border. Say his name, Dementia Joe Biden. This one comes out from Emotional Old Cat Lady says, how's this working out? Might stop some of them if they couldn't get hired, but the Legal Arizona Workers Act, as amended, prohibits businesses from knowingly or intentionally hiring unauthorized aliens. Defines what that is. The law requires it hasn't obviously done anything. Here, no one you know says, it will be interesting to see how the federal government responds to the state of emergency of D.C. As I recall, D.C. residents are not permitted to vote in presidential elections. Well, they don't get electoral votes, right? So even though it's the seat of power, the residents can't vote for president. So will the Fed really expend the energy in helping DC? Will they care beyond saying they don't care? Yes. And then three girlies, yes. Some DC votes in other states, DC residents can vote for president. Came with it. Oh, they do have 3 electoral votes. That's right, they do. Yeah, I thought there was an issue about this. The issue I think that I was confusing this one with, thank you, three girlies, was don't they want they want representation in Congress, right? They get to vote in the presidency, but they don't have senators, they don't have representatives in the House, and I think that's what they want. So yes, but they do vote, but I think because I think other residents vote in other states, the states that they're sort of contiguous with. All right. Thank you for the details on that, three girlies. Let's see here. We had some memes on pre-screening real quickly here. Okay, so we got a couple of these. All right, here's one. The queen is dead. Queen's eldest son, Charles, automatically becomes queen. Maybe it's too soon for that. Here's another one. Obama's return to the White House, said the official portrait, and then if there's Obama memed in front of a group of ISIS. Here's another one. White men are a greatest threat to the United States starter pack. And of course, who do we see there? Joe Biden, Fauci, Christopher Wray, Attorney General Merrick Garland. And then we had another one. This one is 2016, 2026, 2036, 2046, 2056, 2066. We got Trump now. And the crazy lefties are still pleading, still optimistic that something is going to happen. All right. And we've got a few more here. Paul Minot says, we have the sophisticated liberal says, openly supports sanctuary cities for illegal aliens in faraway red states and abhors those who decry and fight against it. Inwardly, does not want any illegal aliens anywhere near her, her children, her home, or her work. Very sophisticated. Thank you to that one from Paul. Speech Unleashed says it's easy for a city or a state to be in support of a sanctuary when they're not a border state that will have to deal with the illegal immigrants. Now the border states are holding those sanctuary cities and their states to their words. Karma is real from Speech Unleashed. Good one. Former says there are thousands of former military who held top secret or higher clearances. Certainly there is a judge who could act as a special master who has possessed these types of clearances. There is. Yeah, there definitely is. And they will all be submitting their sort of requests or their, they're going to be rummaging through all their resumes and trying to identify who might be a good candidate. We had another one from Tricky over on Locals, said, catch me on Rumble. And I think we got that one. Thank you very much, Tricky, for that. Very generous of you. We had another one from Thunder, says, I have to end your stream with hope as I can't take any more of this. The future belongs to the brave, the strong, the proud, and the free. Signed off on by President Donald Trump, and I think he's right about that. We also have Wild Child says, you know we're in trouble when Karine makes Psaki seem coherent. Yeah, Karine, she struggles up there from time to time. Oh, Vientikis is here, saying, don't explode, Zulu. Take it easy over there. All right, get a room, you two. All right, here's another one from L.A. Jing. Says, are you going to go over the Safe T Act from Illinois that Pritzker signed? Probably not. I had not heard about that, but I don't know what that is. Let's see if I can take a quick look and see what this is. Some sort of registration act or something. I'm not sure what it is. If it, I've not heard about it. I don't know anything about it, so it's hard for me to tell you. A former LEO says, easy peasy, just resolve DC and put it back the way it was. I think probably dissolve DC is what you meant there. And I agree with that. DC, I think, should be basically ceremonial in nature only. Really no reason for it to be, the centerpiece of our government anymore. They can vote remotely. They can meet in different sectors. We can have a Southwest or whatever. They don't need to go back there and do their stupid hearings and all this crap. They're wasting our time. All right. And so that was from Former LEO, one final refresh over on Locals. And on YouTube, Diano Hexy says, keep the faith, Rob. I am keeping the faith. I am gonna keep the faith. If I sounded not optimistic or something on this program, that's not the case at all. I think that unfortunately, sometimes things have to get a little bit difficult before they get better. But there's a lot of awakenings that need to happen in this country, and unfortunately, sometimes certain things need to happen before those awakenings take hold, and I think we're living through it right now. But I am grateful for you, Diano, and Thunder 7, and Padre Jose Leonidas Mena Juarez, who just became a member over at watchingthewatchers.locals.com, and I'm grateful that you joined us over there. And of course, if you want to join up over at watchingthewatchers.locals.com, or if you become a member on YouTube, then you also get to participate in these morning walk and talks. Here's one of those morning walk and talks. I was walking around this morning. We were talking about
because it's very difficult.
All sorts of stuff.
It's not a catchphrase that you can.
Volume is very loud. I don't know why that won't let me adjust it. But you can see walking around the neighborhood and just kind of catching up on some of the headlines in the morning. And so if you want to participate in those, you can get those if you join up as a member on YouTube, or if you connect with us over at watchingthewatchers.locals.com. Final refresh over on Locals just came in from Paul Mino. He says, big, beautiful Spotlight remix coming soon. Oh my, can't wait for it. It's gonna be incredible. I have no doubt about it, because Paul, hopefully it's got a lot of GIFs in there. Use GIFs, as many GIFs as you can. GIF it up, and it's just going to be outstanding. All right, my friends, and that is it for us for the day. We are going to leave it there. I want to thank everybody who was a part of the program today over at specifically watchingthewatchers.locals.com. You know where to sign up. I hope you do. Thank you for liking the YouTube video before you get on out of here. Thank you for subscribing if you have not already subscribed. Thank you for sharing the video. And if you want to join on YouTube, there's also that join button. You get those nice badges in the chat. You also get to use the nice custom gifts if you want to use them. Full Metal Jacket, Binger, and also Hunter, I really didn't know, are available. I also am a lawyer at the R&R Law Group. We're located in Scottsdale, Arizona. And so we help people charged with crimes find safety, clarity, and hope, not only in their cases, but beyond that in their lives. If you know anybody who just, you're listening to somebody and their daughter or their son, oh my gosh, they got arrested for something. That's where we can really, really deliver results. We have an amazing team of people working hard in all 183 something courts in Arizona. We're very good at what we do. We have a lot of fun on this channel, but we really, our bread and butter is helping people facing criminal charges. And so if you happen to know anybody facing any type of difficulty, we can help. 480-787-0394. Also, free case evaluations online at rrlawaz.com. Schedule an appointment. Come on in. We'll give you a copy of my book. We'll give you a whole game plan for how you can move beyond this thing. And we hope that you do swing by or come by and schedule a sit down. I want to thank the mods who helped to mod down the fort today and this entire week. Big thank yous out for Vienticus Prime, K Beans in the house, Just Cause, shout outs to Lean, Playin' Hooky, Ronnie Cole, Zulu, Geo I saw was out there, Geomancy Games, subscribe on YouTube. He's over on YouTube, Geomancy Games, go subscribe. Shout out to Henry Dixon I saw swung by the other day. Thank you, of course, to our Spotlight supporters who support the show with a little bit of extra monetary contributions, and I am grateful for it. Thank you to Chris Romero, David B3, Dr. EMB in the house, along with John at qsimple.com. And if you want to get some screen real estate here at the end of every show, please feel free to reach out to me, and you can support the work. I'll support your work, and it'll be just like one big, beautiful, happy family. Isn't that nice? But that, my friends, is it for us for the day. I want to thank you so much for being a part of the show this week and for all the great comments and all your support as we ran through the headlines. Thank you for subscribing over on YouTube, or joining our membership on Locals and elsewhere. We are going to be back here again on Monday for the show. The morning walk and talks, we'll have a morning walk and talk tomorrow, Saturday morning. Sometimes I take Sundays off, so you may not see me there. But certainly come and join us for those morning walk and talks. Otherwise, my friends, I hope to see you right back here on Monday so that together with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Have a tremendous weekend, my friends, and I will see you on Monday. Bye-bye.